Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling a topic that's really all about making things work better, plain and simple. We've got a fascinating resource in front of us, this comprehensive yellow belt training program used within the VHA, the Veterans Health Administration.
Mhm.
Think of it as a blueprint for how a huge organization thinks about getting, well, more efficient and effective.
That's right. And this isn't just like abstract theory. It's a very practical, real-world program designed to give people the actual tools and maybe a new way of seeing things so they can drive improvements on the ground.
Right.
The training covers everything,
Yeah.
core lean ideas, managing the human side of change, setting up visual workplaces, even running successful projects.
Exactly. So our goal today is really to pull out the most valuable pieces of this training, the insights that you, our listener, can use, maybe immediately. Whether you're looking to smooth out your team's workflow, fix a frustrating process at work, or, I don't know, even bring a bit more sanity to your daily routines, this deep dive into lean is designed to give you actionable knowledge.
Yeah.
We want to kind of cut through the jargon and get to what really matters.
Mm.
How to identify and eliminate waste, improve flow, and ultimately deliver more value in whatever you do.
Because at its core, lean is about getting the absolute most value out of any process while being, well, relentless about cutting out anything that doesn't contribute. It's a mindset that can be surprisingly powerful, really, in all sorts of situations.
Okay, let's get down to specifics then.
Yeah.
Module 1 of this training gives us a foundational overview of lean. What are some of the key advantages the VHA sees in using this approach?
Well, the training points to some really significant benefits. I mean, imagine being able to focus more clearly on what truly matters.
Yeah.
Having a shared sense of purpose across your team, making fewer mistakes. Lean aims to deliver exactly that.
Fewer mistakes is always good.
Always. It emphasizes making better decisions, based on clear information and data. And maybe most importantly, it fosters a culture where everyone feels empowered to spot and solve problems.
Ah, so it's not just top down.
Not at all. It leads to faster, more effective action at all levels. And ultimately, the goal is a less stressful environment with fewer surprises, less time spent, putting out fires.
Fewer mistakes and less firefighting. You're speaking my language. The materials also mention something called the iceberg of ignorance. Should we unpack that now, or?
For now, let's just keep in mind that it's a concept. It illustrates how removed leadership can sometimes be from the day-to-day issues faced by frontline staff.
Right, the disconnect.
Exactly. It's a powerful reminder of the importance of getting close to the work. We can always dig deeper if it seems particularly relevant later. What's probably more immediately useful is understanding what qualities define a good lean leader and a lean employee, according to this VHA program.
Okay, sounds good. So what makes someone a lean leader in this context?
A lean leader? Well, it starts with a deep respect for the people doing the work. Simple as that.
Respect for people. Got it.
They believe in seeing the process firsthand, what they call a Gemba walk, because they understand that's where the real insights come from. You have to see it.
Go to where the work happens.
Precisely. They're in it for the long haul, focused on continuous improvement as like an ongoing journey, and they see their role as coaching others to get better. They also keep the customer front and center, practice servant leadership, and are clear and consistent in communicating the overall vision.
Yeah.
It's the kind of leadership that empowers and guides rather than just dictates.
That sounds like a leader who's focused on empowering their team, definitely. And what about the characteristics of a lean employee? How does that look?
Well, similarly, respect for people is fundamental there too. A lean employee actively participates in problem solving, contributes to creating and improving standard work.
Standard work. We'll come back to that, I assume.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's basically the documented best way to do a task.
Mm.
But the lean employee sees making their work better as just, well, part of their job.
Right, integrated.
They also prioritize the customer and are effective at following established guidelines and contributing to a positive team dynamic. The training even provides a simple framework for immediately addressing safety concerns using the 3 Ws.
The 3 Ws?
Yeah, what I see, what I'm concerned about, and what I want. It's a really direct and action-oriented way to flag potential hazards right away.
That is clear. Very concise way to address safety. Now, the core philosophy of lean seems to rest on 2 pillars. What are those?
The 2 pillars of lean are respect for people and continuous process improvement.
Okay, respect for people first. What does that entail?
In a lean environment, it goes beyond just being polite.
Yeah.
It means fostering clear and open communication, actively working to remove obstacles that prevent people from doing their best work.
Removing barriers.
Yes. Genuinely valuing everyone's input, building trust within teams, recognizing contributions, being an active listener, sharing a common vision. It's a whole package, involving the team in decision-making, coaching for growth, operating with transparency.
So it's not just about making processes faster, it's deeply intertwined with how people are valued and treated, really fundamental.
Absolutely. And the second pillar, continuous process improvement, that's about making small, incremental improvements every single day.
Every day.
Ideally, yes. With everyone looking for opportunities to make things better and solve problems right where they occur, at the lowest possible level. This is all driven by a true North vision, the ultimate strategic goals of the organization, and crucially, it's about empowering staff at all levels to identify and implement these improvements.
Empowered staff. So where do these ideas for process improvement actually come from in a lean environment? It can't all be top down, right?
Oh, definitely not. The training highlights several key sources. One important area is visual management boards.
Visual management boards.
Yeah, you might also hear them called daily management system boards, Gembo boards, or math boards. They're essentially visual displays that help teams track their progress, identify problems, and surface opportunities for improvement right there at the point of work.
Makes sense. Visible problems get attention.
Exactly. Another crucial source is simply paying attention to and acting on feedback staff suggestions, customer complaints, concerns, and directly observing the work being done in your own area, those Gemba walks we mentioned. Incredibly valuable.
So watching the actual process.
And finally, sometimes the simplest approach is the most effective. Just asking your supervisor or colleagues for their ideas, talking to people.
Visual management boards sound powerful. We should definitely circle back to those. But for now, let's move on to Module 2. Introduction to Change Management. It seems Lean focuses on the process side of things. What does change management address?
That's a perfect way to put it, yeah. Lean provides the methods and tools for improving processes, but change management focuses squarely on the people side of implementing and, importantly, sustaining those changes.
The people side.
Right. It recognizes that any improvement effort, no matter how well designed, will ultimately involve individuals adapting to new ways of working. That's often the hard part.
And why is effective change management so critical when you're trying to implement lean principles? I mean, is it really that important?
Oh, definitely. The training emphasizes some really compelling statistics. Projects that incorporate effective change management are reportedly significantly more likely to succeed, stay on schedule, and remain within budget.
Wow, okay.
Think about it. You can have the best improvement plan in the world, but if people aren't on board, if they don't adopt the new ways of working, it's just, well, it's unlikely to deliver the results you want.
Those are some persuasive numbers. So how does change management help achieve these kinds of outcomes? Is there a framework?
Yes, one key framework introduced in the training is the ADKAR model. ADKR.
ADK.
Okay. This is a model that focuses on individual change, outlining the 5 essential building blocks that an individual needs to move through for a change to be successful: awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement.
Awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, reinforcement.
Got it. And it's important to understand that these are generally sequential. People need to have a certain level of understanding and buy-in before they can effectively learn new skills and sustain new behaviors. You can't just jump to ability if there's no awareness or desire.
Okay, sequential. Let's take a closer look at each of those then. What's involved in building awareness?
Awareness is all about making sure people understand why the change is necessary. The key questions to answer are, what exactly is changing? Why is this change being implemented now? And crucially, what are the potential negative consequences of not changing?
The burning platform idea.
Exactly. Building awareness involves clear, consistent, and targeted communication. Leadership plays a crucial role here, explaining the rationale, the vision. Making information readily available is also key.
That makes sense. People need to understand the why before anything else. What about desire? That sounds more personal.
It is. Desire is about the individual's personal decision to support and participate in the change. The critical question people ask themselves here is, what's in it for me? Why I am.
By FM, right.
Cultivating desire involves leadership, visibly demonstrating their commitment, managers and supervisors actively championing it, and, importantly, involving employees in the process.
Involving them. How so?
So they feel a sense of ownership, see how the change will benefit them directly or indirectly. If they help shape it, they're more likely to desire it.
So highlighting the personal benefits and making people feel like they're part of the solution is key to building that desire. Okay. What comes next in the 80 car model after awareness and desire?
Next up is knowledge. This focuses on providing people with the understanding and information they need to implement the change successfully.
The how-to.
Exactly. This includes comprehensive training on new processes, tools, or systems, education provided before, during, and after the change goes live, and readily accessible resources like job aids, FAQs, opportunities for practice.
So equipping people with the information they need. Then we have ability. How's that different from knowledge?
Good question. Ability is the demonstrated competence to put the new knowledge into practice, to perform the required tasks and behaviors to the desired standard. It's bridging the gap between knowing what to do and actually being able to do it consistently and effectively.
Ah, okay. Knowing versus doing.
Right. Fostering ability can be achieved through ongoing coaching and support from managers, supervisors, subject matter experts, providing ample opportunities for hands-on practice, and proactively identifying and removing any obstacles that might hinder implementation. Maybe they need a different tool or more time initially.
So it's not enough for people to just know what to do. They need the support and opportunity to actually do it well. And finally, we have reinforcement. What's that about?
Reinforcement is vital for making the change stick, for ensuring it lasts in the long run.
Making it stick, okay.
It involves implementing mechanisms that increase the likelihood that the new behaviors and processes will continue to be used. This includes things like celebrating successes, both individual and team wins.
Celebrating wins, good.
Providing meaningful recognition and rewards for adopting the change. Offering regular feedback on performance. And having some accountability to ensure everyone stays on track.
That makes perfect sense. If people aren't acknowledged for adopting the new ways, or if there isn't a way to ensure the changes are sustained, yeah, they might just revert to old habits.
Exactly. It happens all the time.
The training also touches on the potential negative consequences if you don't successfully navigate each stage of 80KR. Can you elaborate on that? What happens if, say, awareness is missed?
Certainly. If you don't build sufficient awareness and desire, you'll likely see persistent resistance. Employees repeatedly asking the same why questions. Lower productivity, maybe higher turnover. People might hoard resources or information. You'll see significant delays.
Okay, that sounds pretty bad. What about missing knowledge and ability?
If knowledge and ability are lacking, you'll likely observe incorrect or inefficient use of new systems or processes. Employees might express anxiety about their ability to succeed. It could impact customer service negatively. You'd likely see a sustained dip in productivity while people struggle.
And reinforcement, if that's missing.
Well, as you rightly pointed out, without effective reinforcement, people are highly likely to slip back into their old ways of working. The full potential of the changes just won't be realized. And the organization might even develop a reputation for poorly managed change initiatives. Nobody wants that.
No, definitely not. So each stage of the 80 care model really is crucial for a smooth and lasting transition. The module also introduces 6 essential questions for managing change. What are those?
Ah, yes. These are really fundamental questions to keep in mind throughout any change initiative. Good for planning and for communicating effectively with everyone involved.
Okay, what are they?
Number 1, what exactly is changing? Be specific. 2, why is this change necessary? The why, again. 3, why is it important to make this change now? The timing. 4, what aspects of our current way of working will not be changing? That reduces anxiety.
Okay, what's staying the same? Good point.
5, what are the potential risks if we don't make this change? And 6, what are the specific benefits we expect to see as a result of this change?
And those benefits.
Yeah, it's important to consider those benefits from both an individual employee perspective, the WIFM, and from the broader organizational viewpoint. These 6 questions are a great checklist for ensuring clear and comprehensive communication around any change.
These seem like foundational questions that could really help address a lot of the uncertainty and resistance that often comes with change. Okay, let's move on to Module 3, which dives into the 5 lean principles. This sounds like the very core of the lean methodology. What's the first principle?
Right, the core stuff. The first of the 5 overriding principles of lean is identify customers and specify value.
Identify customers and specify value. That sounds pretty self-explanatory, but what does it really mean in practical terms? How do you specify value?
It means that value isn't something you just decide internally, right?
Yeah.
It has to be defined from the perspective of the ultimate customer, the person or entity who will use or benefit from your product or service.
Defined by the customer.
Exactly. The training uses a really insightful exercise. They give a hypothetical $40,000 vehicle budget
Okay.
and ask people to think about features as either must-haves, the absolute essentials you can't live without, exciters, things that add significant value and might sway your decision,
And
or delighters, those unexpected extras that create a really positive impression.
oh, I like that. Must-haves, exciters, delighters. That's a fantastic way to visualize it, focusing on what truly resonates with the end user. And in the context of healthcare, what might a veteran value most? What are some examples?
The training provides some very relevant examples, like accessibility, getting timely access to care without unnecessary delays, reliability, consistent, accurate diagnoses and treatments,
Yeah.
the quality and comfort of facilities, time minimizing waiting times, making efficient use of appointments, convenience, maybe flexible scheduling, and overall service delivered by competent, compassionate, and respectful staff.
So really understanding these specific values is absolutely critical for any improvement effort within the VHA, or any service, really. Now, who exactly are the customers in this first principle? Is it just the end user?
Well, the training makes a useful distinction. There are external customers, which includes both direct recipients, those who directly use or pay for the services, and indirect customers
Yeah.
who might not directly receive the service but have a vested interest in it, like family members perhaps.
Okay. Direct and indirect external.
Right. And then there are internal customers. These are your colleagues within the organization who receive the output of your work, either directly or indirectly. Think of it like a chain of value creation within the organization itself. My output is your input.
So customer has a pretty broad definition here. It's not just the person at the very end. And the fundamental takeaway is
Customer determines value. That's the mantra.
customer determines value. Got it.
And that's where the concept of the voice of the customer, or VOC, comes into play. Actively gathering VOC data provides invaluable insights into the current state of a process from the perspective of everyone involved, internal and external.
How does it help specifically?
It helps answer crucial questions like, are we currently meeting customer needs and expectations? What potential opportunities exist for improvement from their viewpoint? What are their biggest frustrations or pain points right now? Ultimately, understanding the VOC helps you differentiate between activities that actually add value and those that are just waste. And it significantly increases engagement by truly incorporating the customer's perspective. The training even emphasizes this with a powerful phrase, nothing about me without me.
Nothing about me without me. That really underscores keeping the customer at the heart of all improvement efforts. Okay, what's the second lean principle?
The second principle is identify and map the value stream.
Value stream. That sounds like another core concept we need to get a handle on. How is that defined? What is a value stream?
A value stream, well, it encompasses all the actions, everything you do, both those that create value for the customer and, importantly, those that don't, that are required to bring a product or service from its initial concept all the way through to its delivery into the hands of the customer.
All the actions, value added or not.
Exactly. And this includes not just the physical transformation or service delivery, but also the flow of information and any administrative processes involved, the whole journey.
So it's the entire end-to-end journey.
Got it. And how do we go about mapping this value stream? What does that look like?
That's where value stream mapping, or VSM, comes in. It's essentially a visual representation, like a flowchart but more detailed, that documents every single step in the entire process from beginning to end.
A big flowchart.
Kind of, yeah. It's a fundamental lean tool for identifying areas of waste and understanding where you can reduce the overall time it takes to get something to the customer, the lead time. Unlike a basic process map, it specifically looks at both the flow of materials and the flow of information, along with key data points like cycle times, wait times, etc.
Material and information flow. Okay.
It helps teams visualize the entire process holistically and pinpoint where to focus their improvement efforts. The training also mentions the idea of forming a value stream steering team to guide these mapping and improvement activities within a specific area or service line.
So a value stream map gives you that big picture, that 30,000-foot view of the entire process. How does that relate to a more detailed process map that we might be more familiar with? Think of a process map, which you might also hear called a flow chart or a flow map, as a more granular, detailed view of a specific part or segment of the overall value stream map.
Zooming.
Exactly. While the value stream map shows the big picture, the end-to-end flow, a process map zooms in on a particular workflow or series of steps within that larger stream, Creating a detailed process map helps increase understanding of that specific part, prevents oversimplification of complex tasks, and helps the team avoid, jumping to solutions before they truly understand the current situation.
So VSM for the whole journey, process map for a specific leg of that journey in detail. The training really emphasizes the importance of actually observing the process firsthand to create an accurate map. Why is that so critical? Why not just use the documented procedure?
Because honestly, there can often be a significant disconnect between how people think a process works or how it's supposed to work according to the manual and how it actually operates in reality day to day.
The reality gap.
Precisely. To truly identify waste, bottlenecks, workarounds, and real opportunities for improvement, the team needs to go to the Gemba.
Gemba again, the place where the work happens.
Right. Go there and observe each step directly.
Wow.
Talk to the people doing it. This ensures that the map reflects the reality of the process, not just documented procedures or assumptions. You often uncover surprising inefficiencies, and sometimes ingenious workarounds too, when you see the work happening in real time.
That makes perfect sense. You can't effectively fix something if you don't have a clear and accurate picture of what's really going on. The module also introduces some basic symbols used in process maps. What are the key ones we should know?
Yeah, the basics are pretty standard. You'll see an oval or rounded rectangle to indicate the start or stop point of the process.
Start, stop, okay.
A rectangle represents a process step or an activity being performed.
Process step.
A diamond shape denotes a decision box, usually a question with arrows labeled yes or no, leading to different paths.
Decision.
And then you just have arrows to show the direction of flow within the process, connecting the shapes. Understanding these basic symbols makes it much easier for anyone to follow and contribute to creating or analyzing a process map.
Okay, those are pretty standard flowchart symbols. Easy enough. So once we have a clear understanding of our customers and their value, and we've mapped the value stream, what's the next lean principle? Number 3.
The third lean principle is where we really start to get into the heart of efficiency. Flow is created by eliminating waste.
Flow by eliminating waste. Waste is another huge lean term, isn't it? How does the training define waste in the context of a process?
Yeah, waste, or muda in Japanese, is central. The training categorizes all the steps within a process into 3 types: value-added VA, non-value-added NVA, and non-value-added but necessary.
The VA, NVA, and NVA. Okay.
Value-added steps are those that directly contribute to the product or service the customer wants, things the customer would ideally be willing to pay for if they saw them. They transform the product or service in a meaningful way.
The stuff the customer actually cares about.
Right. Non-value-added steps consume resources, time, effort, materials, but don't add any value from the customer's perspective. This is pure waste.
Pure waste, NVA.
And non-value-added but necessary steps, NVN, as the name suggests, don't directly add value to the customer, but they are currently required. Maybe for regulatory compliance, safety reasons, legal requirements, things like that.
So necessary for now, but still not value for the customer.
Exactly. The ultimate goal in Lean is to maximize the value-added steps and relentlessly minimize or completely eliminate both the NVA and the NVN steps wherever possible.
Yeah.
Focus on the VA.
So we're specifically looking for those steps that aren't contributing to the value that the customer is actually looking for. The training also mentions having lean goggles on. What are we supposed to be looking for through those? What do these goggles reveal?
Lean goggles. It's a really helpful way to remember the 3 main categories of things that can hinder smooth and efficient processes. These are the things you train yourself to see.
Okay, what are they?
It's about looking for unevenness, which is mura in Japanese, overburden, which is miri, and waste, muda, which we just discussed.
Euro, Muri, Muda. Okay.
Yeah.
Unevenness, overburden, waste.
Right. Unevenness, mira, refers to inconsistencies or fluctuations in demand or workflow. Think jerky, stop-start processes, often made worse by lack of standardization or unexpected delays.
Okay, inconsistency.
Overburden muri occurs when the work environment or the way tasks are structured puts excessive physical or mental strain on people or equipment. Often stems from poorly designed processes, lack of training, or just too much waste elsewhere causing pressure.
Strain on the system or people.
And muda, as we said, is any activity or resource that is wasteful and doesn't add value from the customer's viewpoint. So when you put on your lean goggles, you're actively looking for these 3 M's, mira, miri, and muda, in any process you observe.
So Mira, Muri, and Muda, the 3 M's we want to minimize or eliminate.
Okay.
Okay. And then the training dives into the 8 forms of waste using the handy acronym DOWNTIME. This seems really practical. Let's go through each of those. D stands for defects.
Yes. Defects are any outputs, products, or services that don't meet the required specifications or standards. They require rework or are scrapped entirely.
Examples in healthcare.
Oh, errors in patient records, incorrect medications, surgical mistakes, infections, even incomplete or illegible documentation that causes delays or confusion later.
Okay, makes perfect sense. Waste caused by errors or flaws that need fixing. O is for overproduction. What's that?
Exactly. Overproduction is the waste of producing more than is immediately needed, producing it sooner than it's needed, or producing it faster than it's needed, only for it to sit around.
Like making too much inventory.
That's a classic example.
Yeah.
Or making extra copies of documents that never get used, requiring unnecessary layers of approval or signatures, sending out mass emails with information that isn't relevant to everyone receiving it. It's doing too much too soon.
So making too much of something or doing it prematurely. Got it. W is for waiting.
Waiting refers to any idle time in the process. It could be people waiting for information, materials, equipment approvals, or a patient waiting hours to see a healthcare provider.
Waiting for the previous step to finish.
Exactly. Any time that resources, human or material, are sitting idle, not able to proceed, that's waste. It's often very visible and frustrating.
That seems like a very visible form of waste in many different kinds of processes, yeah. N is for non-utilized talent. What does that mean?
This is a really important one. It's about the waste of not fully leveraging the skills, knowledge, creativity, and capabilities of the people involved in the process.
How does that show up?
Examples include not involving frontline staff in problem solving about their own work, assigning tasks that are way below someone's skill level routinely, or not providing adequate training and development opportunities so people can contribute more. It's about not tapping into the full potential of your team. Human potential wasted.
So, underestimating or misusing people's abilities, that's a big one. T is for transportation, moving things around.
Exactly. Transportation is the unnecessary movement of materials, information, equipment, or even patients between different points in the process when that movement doesn't actually add value to the final product or service.
Nice.
Think about excessive movement of paperwork or samples between departments, having to walk long distances frequently to retrieve supplies or tools because they aren't stored conveniently. Every step costs time and energy.
Moving things around unnecessarily. Okay, I is for inventory. We touched on this with overproduction.
Right. They're related but distinct. Inventory refers specifically to having more raw materials, work in progress, WIP,
Right.
or finished goods on hand than is absolutely required to meet immediate customer demand.
Why is that bad? Seems like being prepared.
Well, excess inventory ties up capital, takes up valuable space, increases storage costs, and can lead to spoilage, obsolescence, damage, or hide underlying quality problems until it's too late. In healthcare, this could be overstocking supplies or medications that might expire or become outdated.
Holding on to too much stuff that might go bad or become useless makes sense. M is for motion. How is that different from transportation?
Good question. Motion is the unnecessary movement of people within their immediate workspace while performing a task. It's about ergonomics and workplace layout.
Okay, movement within the workspace.
This could include excessive reaching, bending, twisting, walking back and forth just to get tools or supplies that should be closer, or any other physical movement that doesn't directly contribute value to the work being done. So, transportation is moving things between locations. Motion is unnecessary movement at a location.
So wasted physical effort by people doing the task.
Yeah.
And finally, E is for excessive processing.
Yes, also sometimes called extra processing. This refers to performing more work or more steps than is actually required by the customer or necessary for the process to function effectively, adding bells and whistles nobody wants.
Like what?
Examples could include redundant data entry into multiple systems, generating reports that nobody reads or uses, requiring excessive levels of approvals for minor decisions, using overly complex tools or methods when a simpler approach would suffice, or re-inspecting work that was already checked.
So doing more work than is actually needed or adding features or steps that the customer doesn't value. Okay, downtime defects, overproduction, waiting, non-utilized talent, transportation, inventory, motion, excessive processing. That's a really memorable way to keep the 8 wastes in mind.
It is very handy.
The training also briefly mentions behavioral waste. What's the distinction there? How is that different from downtime?
Well, the 8 wastes of downtime focus on inefficiencies within the process steps themselves, the mechanics of the work. Behavioral waste refers more to the negative attitudes, actions, and interpersonal dynamics that hinder improvement efforts and, importantly, demonstrate a lack of respect for people, that core pillar.
So the people side of waste.
Kind of, yeah. The training contrasts this with value-added behaviors. Examples of behavioral waste might include things like blaming others for mistakes instead of looking at the process, engaging in unproductive office politics, jumping to conclusions, or oversimplifying complex problems without proper analysis, inconsistency in following procedures, or creating unclear or constantly shifting expectations. Things that make improvement harder.
And value-added behaviors.
Things like actively going to see the work, Gemba, practicing open and respectful listening, approaching situations with humility and objectivity, and consistently working to build trust within the team. Basically, creating a culture where improvement can thrive.
So it's about fostering a positive and respectful culture that actively supports continuous improvement, not just fixing the process steps.
Okay, now that we've identified and hopefully started to eliminate waste, downtime, and behavioral, what's the fourth lean principle?
Fourth lean principle is respond to customer demand.
Respond to customer demand.
Yeah.
What's the core idea behind this principle? What does that mean in practice? This principle is all about achieving smooth flow in your processes, getting things moving without interruption. The training defines this in the healthcare context as providing the right care in the right place at the right time.
Right care, right place, right time.
Fundamentally, it's about aligning your supply of products or services with the actual real-time demand from your customers. A key concept here is the distinction between push and pull systems.
Push versus pull. Okay, explain that.
Think of it like ordering food at a restaurant versus a buffet. A restaurant mostly operates on a pull system. They only cook your meal after you order it.
Right. Demand triggers production.
Exactly. A buffet is more like a push system. They prepare large quantities of food in anticipation of people wanting it based on a forecast. They push it out there whether you've ordered it yet or not.
Okay, I see the difference. So how does this apply more broadly?
In a push system, you produce goods or services in anticipation of future demand, often based on a forecast or a predetermined schedule. You make stuff and push it downstream, hoping someone will need it.
And the problem with that is?
It can lead to excess inventory and waste if the forecast is inaccurate or demand doesn't materialize as expected, which happens a lot.
Okay. So what's the alternative, the pull system?
In contrast, a pull system means you only produce something or perform a service step when there is an actual demand signal for it, when a downstream customer, internal or external, places an order or signals a need. It's often associated with the just-in-time JIT philosophy. It's directly driven by real-time customer demand. Nothing moves until it's needed.
So instead of creating a surplus based on a prediction, you only produce exactly what's needed when it's needed. Pull seems better. What are some of the specific downsides of a push system that the training highlights?
They point out that push systems often lead to significant amounts of wasted inventory due to overproduction. They frequently result in reactive management by firefighting because you're constantly dealing with unexpected shortages or surpluses from mismatches in supply and demand.
Firefighting mode, yeah.
They can suffer from poor communication between different parts of the process because each area is just focused on its own schedule, and often involve producing things just in case they might be needed, rather than based on actual customer orders. Push systems also tend to favor large production batches, which can mask underlying problems for longer and lead to bigger disasters if something is wrong.
Okay, lots of potential downsides. And what are the key advantages of adopting a pull system then?
Pull systems strive for production precision based on actual consumption. They typically involve smaller production batches, sometimes even a batch size of one, which reduces the risk of producing large amounts of defective products.
Smaller batches, less risk.
Right. They lead to significantly lower levels of inventory, therefore reducing storage costs, waste, and complexity. And they are much more effective at reducing overall waste because you're simply not producing unnecessary items ahead of time. They also tend to foster better communication and collaboration throughout the process because everyone is responding to real-time needs from downstream.
That makes a lot of sense. Respond to actual demand rather than trying to predict it and pushing stuff out. Okay, what's the fifth and final lean principle?
The fifth principle, and honestly one that kind of underpins the entire lean philosophy, is pursue perfection, which is also often referred to as continuous improvement.
Pursue perfection. So lean isn't a one-time project with a defined end date. It's more like an ongoing way of thinking and working, a journey.
Exactly. It's never done.
Hmm.
Continuous improvement, or Kaizen in Japanese, is defined as the ongoing effort to improve products, services, or processes through both small incremental changes, little tweaks every day, and more significant breakthrough innovations.
Both small steps and big leaps.
Right. The training emphasizes that this commitment to continuous improvement is absolutely vital for sustaining any gains that have been made from a project and for continuing to identify and address new opportunities for improvement over time. That's how you get significant long-term impact on efficiency and effectiveness. It has to become part of the culture.
And what are some of the key tools or frameworks that Lean utilizes to pursue this continuous improvement? How do you actually do it?
Well, the training introduces the Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle, PDSA, as a fundamental tool for driving continuous improvement. It's a scientific method for improvement.
PDSA, Plan to Study Act.
Exactly. It's an iterative four-step process for testing and implementing changes in a controlled way. You first plan a small-scale test of a proposed change. What do you want to test? How will you measure it? Then implement the test on a small scale. Next, you study the results, analyze the data, observe what happened, what did you learn, and finally, you act based on what you learned.
Act meaning?
Meaning, you decide whether to adopt the change as is, adapt it based on the findings, and maybe test again, or abandon it if it didn't produce the desired results or cause problems. Then you start to cycle over again. The VHA even has its own specific PDSA worksheet to guide this process, which shows how central it is.
So it's a continuous cycle of making small, controlled changes, learning from them, and then adjusting your approach based on that learning. Very systematic. Okay, that brings us through the 5 core Lean principles. Module 4 shifts our focus to Lean visual management. What is visual management all about? Making things visible.
Pretty much, yeah. Visual management is essentially about using visual cues, things you can see easily, at a glance to communicate important information accurately and concisely to everyone who needs it right when and where they need it.
Like dashboards or charts.
Could be, yes, but also much simpler things. It helps to make key performance targets crystal clear. It makes standards and procedures much easier to understand and follow think visual instructions. It encourages participation and shared understanding because the information is transparent. And crucially, it helps to expose waste, abnormalities, and inefficiencies that might otherwise remain hidden in reports or spreadsheets.
Exposing problems visually.
Exactly. The quote they used at the beginning of this module really sums it up. The worst thing a person can do is to ignore or cover up a problem. Visual management helps bring those problems out into the open so they can be addressed quickly.
So it's all about making information and the current state of things easily visible and understandable to everyone involved. What are some of the key rules or guidelines for creating an effective visual workplace?
The training outlines what they call the visual workplace rules. Pretty simple but powerful. First, all tools, supplies, and equipment must be easy to see, easy to use, and easy to return to their designated place. Think shadow boards for tools.
Easy to see, use, return. Got it.
Second, all the essential components of the process, including supplies, tools, equipment, and critical information, should be made visually obvious and accessible. No searching, no ambiguity. The underlying principle is to create a transparent and self-regulating work environment where everyone knows what's expected, what the current status is, ahead or behind, and where things belong. It should almost run itself visually.
That makes perfect sense. A place for everything and everything in its place, clearly marked and easy to find. The module then introduces the concept of 6S. Is that related to creating this visual workplace? Sounds organized.
Absolutely. 6S is a very practical and widely used methodology for organizing and maintaining an effective visual workspace. It builds directly on those rules. The original concept was 5S from Japan, and the VHA program adds a 6th S for safety, making it 6S.
Okay, so what are the S's?
The 5 core S steps are: go through everything in the workspace and eliminate anything that isn't needed there. Get rid of clutter.
Sort, declutter.
Set in order, arrange the remaining necessary items logically so they're easy to find, use, and return. Define a specific place for everything.
Set in order. Organize.
Shine, clean, and inspect the workspace regularly. Cleaning is inspecting. You spot problems when you clean.
Shine, clean, and inspect.
Standardize, establish consistent procedures and standards for the first 3 S's. How will we keep it sorted? Set in order, and shining. Make it routine.
Standardize, make it routine.
And sustain, make 6S a daily habit and ensure ongoing adherence through audits, checklists, and management support. Make it stick.
Sustain, make it a habit. And the 6th S.
The added S for safety emphasizes proactively identifying and eliminating potential hazards during the sort, set in order, and shine phases to create a safer working environment. building safety in.
So 6S provides a structured, step-by-step approach to creating and maintaining a visually managed, organized, and safe workspace. Very practical. The module also briefly mentions Kanban. What is that in this context of visual management? I've heard that term in software.
Right, it's used in various contexts. Kanban, in the context of lean visual management, is essentially a visual signal or trigger that communicates when work needs to be done or when more supplies are needed. It's a key element of those pull systems we discussed earlier.
A visual signal? Like,
Now, think of it as a visual to-do list or a visual reorder point. For example, an empty bin for parts might be a Kanban signal that it's time to replenish the supply of those parts. Or a card moving across a board might signal that the next step in a process is ready to begin work. It makes the flow of work and materials visually apparent and helps to prevent overproduction and unnecessary inventory by signaling need only when it exists.
like a visual cue that prompts action based on real demand. Got it. So visual management and 6S seem to be very practical ways to put some of the earlier lean principles into action on the ground. Module 5 shifts our focus to lean tools and projects. It starts by talking about project metrics. Why are having clear metrics so important for improvement projects? Seems obvious, but
It does seem obvious, but it's amazing how often it gets overlooked or done poorly. Project metrics are absolutely essential because they serve as your scorecard. They tell you if you're winning or losing. They measure the success and impact of your improvement efforts. Without metrics, you're just guessing whether your changes are actually making a difference, right? You're flying blind.
right, measuring progress.
And the training makes a key distinction here between process metrics and outcome metrics.
Process versus outcome, what's the difference?
Process metrics are leading indicators. They can give you an early indication of whether you're on the right track and can help predict future outcomes. An example might be the average time it takes to complete a specific step in a process, or the percentage of tasks completed without errors first time through. They measure the health of the process itself.
Leading indicators.
Okay.
And outcome metrics.
Outcome metrics are lagging indicators. They show the ultimate results, the end effects of your improvement initiatives. Things like an increase in overall customer satisfaction scores, a reduction in total lead time, or a decrease in overall cost per unit. They tell you if you achieve the final goal.
So process metrics help you see if you're moving in the right direction during the project, and outcome metrics tell you if you've actually reached your desired destination at the end. Makes sense. The module then introduces some specific metrics like cycle time, process lead time, and throughput. Can you give us a brief definition of each of those?
Certainly. Cycle time is the average amount of time it takes to complete one unit of work or one full cycle of a specific process step. How long does it take to actually do the work for one item at that station?
Time per unit at one step. Okay, lead time.
Process lead time, often just called lead time, is the total time it takes for a product or service to go through the entire process, from the moment the request is made or the work starts until it's delivered to the customer. Includes all the waiting time in between steps, too.
Total time from start to finish, including waits. Got it. And throughput.
Throughput is the rate of output. It's the number of units of work or services that are completed per unit of time, for example, the number of patients seen per hour, the number of applications processed per day, or the number of widgets produced per shift. How much stuff gets through the pipe?
Okay, cycle time, lead time, throughput. Key process measures. And the training briefly mentions Little's Law. Sounds intimidating. What's the core idea behind that? Do we need a calculator?
No calculator needed for the concept.
Little's Law is a simple but surprisingly useful formula that describes the relationship between these three metrics, specifically lead time, throughput, and work in progress. It states that the average work in progress, WIP, the number of items currently in the system being worked on, is equal to the average throughput multiplied by the average lead time.
WIP, throughput, x lead time.
Exactly. It can be really helpful for understanding how things like reducing the amount of work you have in progress can significantly shorten how long it takes to get things through the system, your lead time. Reducing WIP is often key to reducing lead time. Okay, a useful relationship to keep in mind. The module also introduces takt time. How is that different from cycle time or lead time? Sounds similar.
It does sound similar, but takt time is a different kind of metric altogether. It's not a measure of how long things currently take. Instead, it's the rate at which you need to complete a product or service in order to meet customer demand. It's the rhythm or beat of customer demand.
The rate you need to hit, how is it calculated?
It's calculated by taking the total available operating time you have, say in a shift minus breaks, and dividing it by the total customer demand for that same period. How many units does the customer want? So available time divided by customer demand gives you the required pace.
Available time, customer demand.
Right. So unlike cycle time, how long it actually takes to do one, or lead time, the total time in the system, takt time tells you the ideal pace you need to maintain to keep up with customer needs without overproducing or falling behind. Think of it like the heartbeat of your process, synchronized to the customer's pulse.
So it's all about matching your production pace to the customer's demand rhythm. Very cool concept. Then there are business metrics mentioned. What are some examples of those? These sound like higher level measures.
They are. Business metrics are broader measures of overall organizational performance and often linked directly to financial results. They can include things like improvements in revenue, reductions in operating costs, better utilization of assets, like reducing that excess inventory we talked about, improvements in market share, things like that.
The bottom line impact.
Exactly. These are the metrics that typically have a direct impact on the financial health and strategic goals of the organization. Lean projects should ideally connect to these.
So linking process improvement to the big picture impact on the business. Got it. The module then outlines different approaches to improvement. It's not always a big project, right?
Correct. It mentions just do it, JDI, or sometimes just stop it, JSI. For those simple problems where the solution is already known, it's pretty obvious, and you or your team have the authority to implement it quickly without needing a formal project structure. Low-hanging fruit.
Just do it. Nice and simple.
Then there's the PDSA cycle we discussed earlier. That's ideal for testing small, incremental changes within a specific unit or process, learning as you go.
PDSA for small tests.
And for more complex problems that cut across departments or require a more structured collaborative approach, they introduce the Rapid Improvement Event, RIE. You might also hear this called a Kaizen event or a Rapid Process Improvement Workshop, RPAW.
RIE. What's that involve?
These are typically short, highly focused workshops, maybe 3 to 5 days long, that bring together a dedicated cross-functional team to rapidly analyze a specific problem, develop solutions, and often implement and test them right there during the event week. It's intense, but can yield big results quickly.
So different levels of problem complexity call for different levels of improvement effort. JDI, PDSA, RIE. Makes sense. Finally, Module 5 discusses the various roles in process improvement. Who are the key players in a typical lean project according to this training?
Yeah, clear roles are important. The training highlights several key ones. The supervisor or manager typically acts as the project sponsor. They provide overall support, resources, champion the project, and importantly, help remove any organizational roadblocks the team might encounter.
The sponsor gets obstacles out of the way.
Right. The yellow belt candidate, someone who has gone through this level of training, often takes on the role of the facilitator. They guide the team through the improvement process, teach the tools, manage the meetings, ensure everyone participates, and keep the project on track. They don't dictate solutions, they guide the process.
The facilitator. Process guide.
Then you have the project team itself. This is comprised of subject matter experts, SMEs, people who know the process inside out, and individuals who directly touch the process being improved daily. They're the ones who understand the current state, brainstorm ideas, design, and ultimately deliver the solutions. Their input is critical.
The team. The experts and doers.
And perhaps most importantly, you have the frontline employees. They are crucial for embracing, adopting, and consistently using the new processes developed by the team. Change only works if they buy in and use it.
Frontline employees. Making it happen daily.
The module also specifically outlines the responsibilities of a yellow belt facilitator in more detail, things like ensuring the project has adequate support, managing meeting logistics, guiding the team through the A3 problem-solving process, which we'll discuss next, driving sustainment plans. And they also detail the process owner's role, the person ultimately responsible for the performance of the process being improved. They need to actively support the improvement efforts and own the ongoing implementation and sustainment of the new way of working.
So it's definitely a collaborative effort with clearly defined roles and responsibilities for everyone involved: sponsor, facilitator, team, frontline staff, process owner.
Got it. That brings us neatly to Module 6, which introduces the 9-box A3. What exactly is an A3 in this context? I've heard it mentioned.
The A3. It's presented here as a really core, structured, and visual problem-solving and communication tool within the Lean framework. It's called A3 because the entire project story, from problem definition to results and lessons learned, is designed to be captured concisely on a single sheet of A3-sized paper.
A big piece of paper, basically. 11 by 17 for us in the U.S.
Right, that size. And it's organized into 9 distinct boxes or sections that follow a logical problem-solving flow. The idea is that this concise visual format promotes clear, disciplined thinking, makes it much easier to communicate progress and findings among team members and stakeholders, and supports a standardized cycle of continuous improvement using that PDSA thinking.
So one page tells the whole story. That's the goal. The training emphasizes that A3 thinking is the important part, not just filling in the boxes. It's about the disciplined thought process it encourages. And it's applicable to a wide range of activities, from complex projects to strategic planning, even personal development initiatives, potentially.
So it's a very visual and concise way to manage and communicate about an entire improvement project. Module 6 focuses specifically on Box 1, reason for improvement. What kind of information goes into this initial box? Where do you start?
Box 1 is all about clearly defining the problem you're trying to solve and articulating why it's important to address it now. It sets the stage.
Okay, what specifically?
This box should contain a concise statement of the problem itself, what's wrong. It needs a compelling explanation of the reason for taking action, often referred to as the burning platform or the key pain point being experienced. Why does this matter?
The why, urgency.
Exactly. And ideally, a description of the measurable impact this problem is having, using a specific metric that relates to the customer or the organization's goals. How big is the problem? And crucially, Box 1 also defines the scope of the project.
Scope, what's in, what's out.
Precisely. Clearly outlining what aspects of the process will be included and what will be excluded, as well as the starting and ending points of the process being examined. The training specifically cautions against scope creep, where the boundaries of the project gradually expand beyond the initial agreement, making it unwieldy. Keep it focused.
So Box 1 really sets the stage. Problem, why act, impact, and scope. Seems critical to get right. The module also introduces the SIPOC diagram as a tool to help with defining the scope. What is SIPOC? Sounds like another acronym.
It is. SIPOC stands for Suppliers, Inputs, Process, Outputs, and Customers. SIPOC.
Suppliers, inputs, process, outputs, customers.
Okay. It's a high-level visual tool, kind of a bird's-eye view map of a process. It helps you define the boundaries of your project by quickly identifying who are the key suppliers who provide the necessary inputs. What are those key inputs, materials, information? What are the major steps in the process you're focusing on? Just high level. What are the main outputs of that process? And who are the ultimate customers who receive those outputs?
A quick map of the landscape.
Exactly. Creating a SIPOC diagram early on is a great way to get a shared understanding of the process at a high level among the team and ensure that you considered all the critical elements when defining the scope of your improvement project in Box 1. The training also makes a direct connection here between Box 1 and the awareness stage of the 80 core model we talked about. Box 1 is your communication tool for building that initial awareness among stakeholders about the need for change.
So SIPOC helps you draw the boundaries for Box 1, which then helps build awareness. Nice connection. Module 7 then moves on to Box 2, current state. What's the primary focus in this part of the A3? What goes here?
Box 2 is all about developing a deep, factual understanding of the process as it currently exists today. Not how you think it exists or how it should exist, but how it actually works.
Understanding reality.
Yes. This involves visually mapping out the current process flow in detail, that process map we discussed earlier. And ideally, doing this through collaboration with the people who actually touch the process and perform the work day to day. Their knowledge is invaluable.
Involving the front line again.
Absolutely. The key objectives here are to gather accurate baseline data that reflects the current performance of the process. How long does it take now? What's the error rate now? And to identify any existing waste, downtime process variations, bottlenecks, or operational barriers that are currently present.
Data and identifying problems.
And the training strongly emphasizes the importance of creating these detailed process maps by conducting those Gemba walks. Go to the actual place where the work is done, observe it firsthand, talk to people to get a truly realistic picture, rather than just relying on documented procedures or secondhand accounts which might be outdated or inaccurate. It also highlights the need to clearly define the key attributes or characteristics of the current process based on these direct observations. What does it look like, feel like?
So actually seeing the work being done and talking to the people doing it is absolutely crucial for accurately capturing the current state in Box 2. No armchair analysis.
Definitely not. The module also revisits the concept of voice of the customer, VOC, data collection here. How does that fit into understanding the current state?
Right, VOC. How does it fit here?
Gathering and analyzing VOC data is a vital part of understanding the current state from the customer's perspective. both internal and external customers. It helps to identify what aspects of the current process are working well for them, what their main frustrations or pain points are, and where their expectations are not being met by the current reality.
Getting their view of what is.
Precisely. The training again distinguishes between direct VOC methods, like doing Gemba interviews with customers or patients or holding focus groups to get firsthand feedback, and indirect VOC methods like analyzing existing complaint logs or survey reports.
Direct versus indirect VOC.
Right. And direct methods are generally considered more insightful for understanding the true customer needs and perceptions in depth. Identifying specific obstacles and barriers that currently hinder the process is also a key component of the current state analysis in Box 2. What's getting in the way?
Obstacles and barriers.
The training even mentions using specific tools here like spaghetti diagrams where you literally draw the path someone walks to do a task, often looks like spaghetti, to visually track the movement of people or materials and highlight wasted motion or transportation. And using time observations, actually timing steps to quantify how long different parts of the process actually take. Get the data.
Spaghetti diagrams and time observations. Very visual, very data-driven.
And finally, they introduce the idea of marking CAPOEs directly onto the current state process map.
CAPOEs? That sounds fun. What are they?
It's a memorable acronym. Stands for Key Areas of Potential Opportunity related to waste, obstacles, barriers, and variation. KAPOWEE. So as you map the current state and observe it, you visually flag these CAPOEs right on the map to highlight areas ripe for improvement.
Marking opportunities on the map. I like it.
All of this information, the map, the data, the VOC, the obstacles, the CAPOEs, the defined attributes of the current process should then be considered in relation to the organization's overarching true north vision or strategic goals. And you identify the relevant baseline metrics here that you'll track throughout the project.
So Box 2 is a really deep dive into understanding exactly how things are operating today, warts and all, both from an internal process standpoint and from the crucial viewpoint of the customer, backed by data and observation. Okay. Module 8 then takes us to Box 3, target state. What's the aim here? What goes in Box 3?
Box 3 is where you describe the ideal or at least significantly improved future state you envision for the process after you've implemented your improvements. It's about painting a clear picture of what good looks like.
The to-be state.
Exactly. A process that has successfully eliminated the waste identified in Box 2, addressed the key issues in CAPOEs, and ultimately delivers more value to the customer more efficiently.
What does that look like in the A3?
This box typically includes clearly defining the desired attributes of the target state, how should it feel, how should it operate, creating a visual map of the improved future process flow, and very importantly, developing a concise and measurable SMART aim statement.
SMART aim statement. SMART again, remind us.
Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. It's that classic framework for setting effective, actionable goals for your project. What exactly do you want to achieve by when?
Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-bound.
Right.
What kind of improvements are typically targeted in the aim statement? Examples.
The training provides examples of typical quantifiable improvement aims. They often fall into the categories like quality and safety, for instance, aiming to double the rate of successful first-time outcomes, or reduce medication errors by 50% within 6 months.
Quality safety.
Or delivery and timeliness, such as achieving at least a 30% improvement in overall process efficiency, or reducing average patient wait time by 25% by end of Q3.
Delivery timeliness.
And sometimes cost reduction, like targeting a 20% reduction in wasted materials in the procedure setup process within this fiscal year. The key is that it's specific and measurable. And the target state map itself should visually represent this future process, clearly showing how the identified waste and bottlenecks from the current state map have been eliminated or significantly streamlined. You compare the before map in Box 2 with the after map in Box 3.
So Box 3 paints a clear picture of the desired future, the target attributes, the future map, and the SMART goals for the improvement project. Module 9 then focuses on Box 4, gap analysis. What's the purpose of this box? What gap are we analyzing?
Box 4 is all about understanding why there's a difference or a gap between your current state, Box 2, and your desired target state, Box 3. It focuses on systematically identifying and analyzing the root causes of the problems, the waste, the inefficiencies you observed in the current state that are preventing you from reaching the target.
Getting to the root cause, not just symptoms.
Exactly. This is critical. If you only treat symptoms, the problem will likely come back. Box 4 is where you dig deep. The training introduces several valuable tools for this critical stage.
What kind of tool?
One is the Pareto principle, often called the 80-20 rule,
The 80-20 rule.
which suggests that typically roughly 80% of the problems or negative effects you see are caused by just 20% of the underlying causes. It helps you prioritize your analysis, focus on the vital few causes that are creating most of the pain.
Focus on the big hitters. Okay. What else?
Another essential tool is the fishbone diagram, also known as an Ishikawa diagram or cause and effect diagram.
Fishbone diagram, I've seen those.
It's a visual way to brainstorm and categorize the potential root causes of a specific problem or effect. The bones of the fish represent different categories of potential causes. Common categories used are things like personnel, materials, methods, environment, measurement, and machine, though you can adapt the categories to your situation. It helps structure the